What's good, YouTube? It's the Master Gamer bringing you guys another video. Today, kind of going to be going over the age of esports and kind of how Madden fits into that. Don't have a lot of time today. There's a cat. So probably only do one take of this. Technically, I did it once before, and then I realized that I didn't really have everything written down. So I got kind of a brief list of notes. I don't know what he's doing, but whatever. Got a cat. There's that. So quickly, just want to go over essentially where I think Madden needs to improve as an esport, and overall the direction esports is heading, what essentially just needs to happen. So where am I going to get the whole age of esports thing? When I look at the age of really anything, you look at not just the rate of growth, but the increasing rate of growth that takes place during that period of time. We're starting to see the stagnation of the acceleration of the growth of esports. Now we are still seeing growth, and we are still seeing accelerated growth, but we're not seeing the acceleration, if you will, the jerk, whatever took calculus, jerk, didn't, the growth of acceleration, so the increasing amount of acceleration of growth, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not really hard, but like I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough. Essentially, you have the velocity, which is your direct speed, your straight line speed, 1 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour, 3 mile an hour. Your acceleration, the rate at which you increase velocities, and then the jerk, which is the rate at which you increase acceleration. So, just want to go over that real quick. Sorry, it kind of seems out of the way, but it's important. So, essentially what this is that we are losing the jerk, and that's starting to decrease. So we need to be able to fit into that final mold of an esport. You see teams leaving in terms of other sports. I know Splice just left CSGO, which is a bigger sport than we have right now. You see Optic leaving Halo. See a few other teams leaving a few other games. Sorry about that. Cat really just sat down on the keyboard. Can never be easy. But again, I don't have a lot of time today, so we're just gonna keep this and just move the keyboard out of the way like that. So investments are starting to kind of be more specialized. You start to see that investors are going into certain organizations, certain games that they feel are going to grow, as opposed to just getting into any game they can to hopefully be on top of that game when it does blow up. And you're starting to see that more, especially with even like games like Fortnite, even though it's not really competitive yet. You just see a lot of push towards it just because it's such a big game. I personally don't think it should be competitive. That being said, it will be, because just the sheer quantity of players. But that's besides the point. Now, in terms of what Madden needs, where I feel Madden is it's not in a set in stone, solidified spot as an esport right now. Only because we don't have the concurrent, really, Twitch viewership and viewership on anything outside of television to really say, yes, we have a large fan base. And especially with I'm just going to keep going back to the age of esports really ending, that more so meaning the jerk going down, is that you need to be able to solidify your spot on that top shelf in order to keep getting those investments, keep getting the increased viewership, because if not, they're just going to go somewhere else. So what Madden needs to do, I think, to counteract this, and really just fight it, make sure that we end up just on top of the food chain, is we need, first of all, we need player salaries. I think that's one of the things that 2K got right the most out of everything they're doing. By giving player salaries, that gives the players the freedom of knowing that they can focus everything on Madden. They don't need to worry about anything else to make money. They can be Madden players. There isn't this risk of, oh, 1 year I made $100,000, next year I could make $5. Like, there isn't, and obviously that's an exaggeration, but right now it's so random, especially the way the game plays, it's so random that we need to be able, at the very least, get player salaries in order to grow the game. And it's not just from a selfish aspect of, yeah, I want salaries, and I don't think that's the wildest thing to ask for in esports or a job of any kind, really. But it's the only way players are going to be able to focus 100% on the game, be able to promote the game fully. And I mean, if players are getting salaries, they're more likely to stream also and help grow the game in that way as well. And I think that's really important for the game and growth in the long term. Now, we also need to see better promotion. Something that I really liked they added was the coaches. They added the 6 coaches. It was Spot Me, Trueboy, Kiv, Skimbo, Joke, and Prob. And then they added the 4 MCS cards, which was the Ray Lewis, the Barry, the Ronnie Lott, and then the Jerry Rice. So to go alongside that with the jerseys to give you incentives to buy it. And that put players in the game, which worked as a form of promotion. I think it's also for something else, but that alone helps promote eSports. And then ever since then, we just kind of didn't get any more players. That was before, let's see, it was before Ultimate League started is when we got it. And that was, what, 2 months ago? So I doubt we're getting any more. Granted, we did see in the games yesterday that Blocky did have a model in the game, and so did Drini. Are they going to be actually purchasable? I don't know. But I think that was a really large push that kind of just stopped. I really think that was a really good idea. And hopefully there'll be even more incentive in the future to even buy those coaches. Maybe it's a set that if you get all of them, you get a thing. I don't know. Just throwing out ideas there. And obviously there's more in-depth ways you can go in it. Maybe there's player profiles on the game, on the coach, whatever. Pretty much, I think that there is a lot more you can do with those coaches. I thought it was a really good idea, and it kind of just stopped. I don't know why. Hopefully we can see that again in the future. Not only that, but something I really like to see is like dynamic loading screens. Something that when I was in Philly a few weeks ago and I was talking to the Nerd Street guys, something they mentioned that really helped their promotion for the challengers was actually the loading screens. The difference in players at those challengers when you have loading screens against when you didn't have loading screens was huge. Like, it was a very significant drop in players just from the 2 challengers. So not only do I think we need to have loading screens for all these events, I think there should be dynamic loading screens in terms of something going on. The best way I could explain this is, I don't know if you guys remember way back on like PS2, like all the Dragon Ball Budokai games would all have like dynamic loading screens in terms of like you had something to do. So you can make it so essentially there's a mini game, or not even a mini game, but like something at least at the very least moving, so it's flashing, grabbing your attention, and just promoting challengers, promoting things like the Mudhead League, promoting things outside of just the MCS that are competitive Madden related, just to build a following, because we don't really have the following. We have the player base on Madden, but we don't have the following yet, and that's something that's really crucial, and I don't think it's really being pushed enough. So again, you could promote things like the Butthead League. You could promote personal players and promote their channels. You could promote challengers. You could promote things like what's the other thing I had in mind? I forgot. But point is that that's a very good tool that they have at their disposal to promote competitive Madden. And I was surprised when I heard how big of a difference it makes, but when you think about it, I mean, everybody that plays this game sees the loading screen. No matter what mode you play, no matter how you play it, you do see a loading screen. Whether you only use practice mode, whether you only play against a computer, whether you play CFM, you see the loading screens. And with the quantity of players that play this game, that's huge. Now, I think it needs to be dynamic, again, just because it's better at grabbing attention. That's something that you really want to make sure that the players see. And it's, again, I don't know how hard that is. I'm not a game developer, so I can't say. That being said, I think it would be a really good step in promoting Madden as an esport. Not only that, but I would really like to see some kind of support from the NFL to allow organizations' jerseys to be used. Like, I know right now we have SK, Echo Fox, Luminosity, and Focus. You have Noble. I might be missing one. I'm definitely missing one. But regardless, if you could add those jerseys into the game, that is another incentive for organizations to invest into Madden. right now, for an organization, it doesn't really make too much sense to invest in Madden unless they want to essentially be the org of Madden because nobody else is in it, if that makes any sense. So at least in terms of an investing standpoint for an org, if you're looking at Madden, you're not looking at it in terms of like, this is the best game right now and we see for sure that it's going to blow up. It's more so like, let's make sure we are the dominant name in this game by being here first. So if we can essentially get more orgs to jump into Madden because of that incentive, again, you factor in that large player base, that might bring in the optics, that might bring in the Cloud9s, all those teams that have a lot of influence in the esports world into Madden, and that brings viewership with them. I mean, there's fans of those teams, and then they'll look more into Madden. And granted, you won't get a full 100% of their fan base because, again, you have to factor in football's an American sport, and that's just not how things work. You don't get a shout out from someone with, I'll just use an example, 100,000 viewers, and expect 100,000 people to jump to what you're doing. You have to expect even like 5%, and that might be even pushing it. But end of the day, that's viewership, and that push for viewership can create talk, and that talk is what essentially elevates games to the status of Fortnite. Fortnite's a free game that only did so much advertising. I don't really remember how much they did. I remember about a year ago on YouTube they were making a push for the Save the World game mode, but I don't even think they had a Battle Royale mode at the time anyway. So like, the point is that talk rules the world, and that's the advertising you need, is people just talking about the game, end of the day. And that's why I think you need to, at least it needs to be in their head to know to talk about it, and that's where, again, the dynamic backgrounds come in. That's when you get other orgs to come in. I think that's why those are so huge. Now, in terms of gameplay, there's a whole list of things that I think need to happen to make it competitive. I'm just going to go down the quick bullet points here because there's pushback on both sides. I could go on for a while about specific niche things. Like you could say in Madden 19, well, Cloud Flash what did I just say? I don't even know. Cloud glitches have to go. Well, that's not a surprise. We know that there's going to be glitches. I mean, the game is made in a year. It relies heavily on CPU mechanics because we can only play on one player. And as the devs, they aren't given really ample time because the way years work, 365 days, to really create a perfect and flawless game. So we have to understand that as player base and either get extended game cycles or accept it. End of the day, we can't expect a perfect game. That being said, we can't expect aspects of the game to be tuned so that it is more competitive. What I mean by that is dropped interceptions. They do have to go. Only pushback I've ever really gotten that is D lineman. So if D lineman can't catch picks, at this point I'm fine with it. But I'm done catching picks with Dion in the open field, complete user lurks, not holding line, just lurks, and just dropping that pick. That is a huge issue right now. Too many people get away with throwing picks. Not to mention throwing the double and triple coverage, knowing that you can hit the Y button, get a nag catch animation, the ball will fly across the field so nobody can pick it, even if you're throwing in triple coverage. The really annoying thing about that too is that even if you don't do that on purpose, a lot of people do it just because the ad catch button is essentially what you'd want to use in that spot. And it creates a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't punish mistakes, essentially. That's something that I know Zan's been kind of preaching on Twitter the past year, is that, like, yeah, throwing in double and triple coverage, even though it's probably incomplete, that's a win for the offense. They just got away with throwing in triple coverage. That can't happen. And moving on, we got fumbles. Fumbles are an issue. I'm starting to not care what people think about fumbles, just because, yeah, you can fumble one time in a game where you got clapped on a juke. Or you can fumble 5 times in a game where the best running back of all time gets hit by Deion Sanders and fumble all the same. And unless that's not possible, which I've seen it happen enough times, fumbles are an issue. Now, that being said, quarterback fumbles, front of the line of scrimmage, not an issue. That should happen. The quarterback should be punished. I think the R1 mechanic and the slide mechanic work fine. Quarterback fumbles and don't believe should be touched. They're great. Now, if full out no fumbles aren't willing to be compromised essentially in a competitive game, which I don't really understand why, besides the NFL aspect, but this isn't the NFL, this is Madden. We're playing a different game. The NFL skill gap lies almost exclusively in the players. Now, coaching does matter. I don't want to say coaching doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, the players have to execute. In Madden, the coach has to execute. And if the coach fumbles, because the player on the field decided he was going to fumble that play, what did the coach do wrong? Again, quarterback fumbles. Not what I'm talking about. But the game has to be competitive. And if you take out the fact that jukes were completely stupid at the beginning of the year, with the entire fake out mechanic, I don't think anybody complained about fumbles until they started realizing how bad the jukes were. And then they wanted a counter. No fumbles at the beginning of the year was awesome. You didn't lose a game because Deion Sanders hit the best running back all time. That just didn't happen. You didn't lose a game in your money drive because you caught a pass, ran a few yards, and the corner decided he was going to hold the R1 button and shoot the ball out. Like, what skill does that take from the defensive perspective to earn that game? And you could say, yeah, you should have fought back the entire game, but there's only so many possessions in a game of Madden. It's so easy for one thing to go wrong and the entire game is over. I mean, if you look back at the Drini Kiv game yesterday, that was a great game, man. That was one of the best games I've seen all year. But if you look back and you say, when Drini was up and dropped that pick, that game might have been over right there. That one play. And that's not to say, well, Drini should have won this game. I'm not trying to start that whole debate. I'm just bringing up the point that, like, one play can make a difference in a game, and that one play isn't always determined by the player, and that's an issue right now. Not only that, overthrows are an issue. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, but it's still hard to see that, like, I guess what I want to say is I don't think that's as important, but I'm still seeing clear pocket. I don't even think it should be clear pocket. I think at the very least it should be not on the run. I don't understand why under pressure has to throw you off. I understand if the quarterback's, like, if a dude's in your face as a quarterback, it's gonna throw off your pass. I get that, but again, we're playing Madden. We're not playing quarterback in the NFL. It's just that simple. And again, if the player sheds, why? Like, how did you do something wrong? Not only that, but under pressure activates if you're too close to a D end. He's blocked. And I don't mean too close as in, like, you're within arm tackle reach. I mean, like, you're just standing a few feet behind your right tackle and he's blocking it to the end. That'll give you under pressure. That's an issue. Something under pressure throws in the pocket where you aren't moving, being overthrows. Those are kind of issues, but again, those aren't as important because I don't see that affect games as much. That being said, generally in deep balls that are wide open touchdowns is where you see it. So it is kind of important. All right, going down the list some more, we have broken tackles. I don't even know what to do on that, to be honest. I understand the argument that player ratings have to matter. That being said, broken tackles, I mean, how much skill does that take to break a tackle? What did you do differently to break that tackle? You know, that's more so what I'm trying to get behind is that the game should be skill-based, not player-based, end of the day. Yeah, there's little numbers next to the cards that say they do this, that, but in a competitive game, why are we worrying about anything besides the game? Why are the players determining how we play the game? Yeah, you could say there's certain guns in Call of Duty that shoot different, but they shoot different consistently. You know every single time they're going to do this, that, or that, with recoil and flinch being two things that are the exception to that. And I think Call of Duty is the exception. When you look at CSGO, the recoil pattern is almost exactly the same every single time you shoot that gun. Halo, there isn't even recoil. I don't even think there's flinch. I don't know as much there, to be fair. Same thing with Fortnite, you don't even see flinch there. So, point is, while player ratings are there, make it for the other modes, or take out the ratings that essentially can dictate a game without, that's the way I want to word it. I mean, I just don't think ratings should impact the game that much in such short quarters. I mean, yeah, broken tackles don't seem that bad if you break one a game, but again, the same thing is like if you break a tackle on a stretch, and the only person there is, we'll just say Brian Dawkins, who has kid throw, not scare tackler, and your silver running back decides he's going to break that tackle. Yeah, it's not likely, but what did you do wrong on defense to lose that game? And I think that's overall the message I'm trying to say is like, the players can't determine the game. Well, the players is kind of ambiguous, actually. It can be the players, the avatars of the game. The players on the field in game cannot determine the outcome for the players on the sticks. So, that being said, previous play, separate, has to go. Quick little, sheds. I don't really, there's not a clear answer to sheds, because sheds are important but also an issue. Sheds can win someone a game or lose someone a game. That being said, they need to be, I feel like they need to be consistent. What I think needs to be done to sheds is essentially make every lineman have secure pass blocker. The quantity of time that the secure pass blocker is active is based off the pass block of the lineman. And again, the difference between that rating and, say, elusiveness, for example's sake, is that it's consistent. Just want to get that out of the way. So, we'll say that 99 pass block gives you guaranteed 4 to 5 seconds, no matter who you're playing against. No matter what. Same thing with run block. It's backwards right now, I feel like. We need to be flipped. The offensive lines need to have the advantage of defensive lines. If defenses are going to start the run of pass, in my opinion, it needs to be the player that comes up with the defense, the heat, the run defense to stop that certain run or pass. And that goes alongside with, I think the auto detection needs to go for that reason alone. There's not any heat right now. The offensive line is actually too smart. So I don't really see that much coming in. That leaves the uncreative defenses just sending the same thing every single play, hoping that one play you shed or the offense forgets to set up their blocking. Like that's kind of what the game's come down to on defense, and just making adjustments behind it. And you don't really see too many stops happening unless you get something wild happening, like I mentioned before, a fumble or a drop pick and overthrow. Something like that changes the game where there's no real heat. The run defense right now is rough because pursuit angles, broken tackles, fake outs. It's all an issue right now. But I think sheds need to be tuned so the offensive lines win against the defensive lines. That way, the skill gap on defense. I mean, I think that really pushes more of a skill gap on defense. Is what it comes down to. Yes, 90. Like when you see 99 run block, you hear it getting improved. Obviously, that tends to be scared, and I understand that. Even as a runner, I understand that. That being said, I think the defense needs to be improved to the point that isn't scary. Maybe it's ring commit working. Maybe just pursuit angles are better. I don't know what the solution is, but regardless, I don't think defense should ever be sheds. That's random praying is what that is. That's not defense. And maybe the game isn't ready for that right now, at the very least in terms of run block, and I understand that. But that being said, I think it is something that needs to be looked into for the future. Now, I mentioned it earlier, but I just want to reiterate that fake outs are the worst juke mechanic that could exist. It needs to be stick related. Maybe double juke system. I don't know exactly takeouts are not the answer. I know that much for sure. Also, I mentioned earlier with the Korean ones, the ags can't be caught. Period. End of story. Like, that's just, I feel like that's simple stuff. I think that might be all the general points I wanted to make. Hopefully, this is some stuff we see in 19. I don't know. I don't have too much information there. That being said, I just wanted to explain my thought process on certain things. I want to see this game grow, and I just want to put my ideas out there. If you have any ideas, again, put them down in the comments down below. Maybe get some conversation on Twitter starting. Just want to see overall, I want this game to grow. I want to be doing this for a long time, and under the current path, I don't see that being viable for the long-term future. So I want to put this out there, give out some ideas, and see what you guys think. Hopefully get some of these ideas into the game, into the MCS structure for next year. Granted, I didn't really say too much on the structure. The structure is bad this year, but I think salaries fix structure regardless is the moral of the story. There's more to be talked about structure, but I don't want to say for here. That's a Periscope is for. All right, guys. Cat fell asleep with me, so I'm not gonna lean forward. But it's been the Master Gamer, and I'm out.